Kirk Herbstreit's been around for a long time. He's very valuable to the college football community, and he reacted this past week, like a lot of other people, about Texas and Oklahoma come to the SEC. I wanted to include his reaction in what we talk about here. I want to make sure that you're subscribing to us, and make sure you're not missing out on the website, dogpost.com. We have a big-time article coming out Sunday. If you're watching this after Sunday, circle back. The article's already out. Make sure you're on the website. Back to Kirk. Important person in our industry for sure. This is what he had to say, paraphrasing, not reading every single thing he said. This is what he had to say this past week while he was on one of Disney's many different properties. He said, my first thought is the Big 12 going to survive? Where are they going to go? Are they going to become a group of five type conference, or the others within the Big 12 going to leave? Where are we going? In a year from now, what are these presidents thinking behind closed doors, and who are they going to be getting calls from? What's happening? Because things are happening, right? Yes, that's one thing for sure. And then he went on to say, my concern is not knowing what this will lead to. And again, and this is quoting him, I just hate losing to the tradition of the sport. I've always been, I guess, naive to it. Always tried to be the guy that's like, no, we're going to hold on to our traditions. People care about those traditions. They care about the rivalries. Clearly, the decision makers don't, and we're now in an arms race, and it's about the money. It's been about the money since you and I were in college, Kirk. And I'm not saying that's good or bad, and I'm not saying you're saying it's good or bad, but it's been that way for a long time, and it's been that way a long time because of the company you work for. And I know you understand that. There's no confusion here. The money is coming from Disney. Fox wasn't even in this ball game for a long time. CBS pays the SEC not even $60 million a year for the best games of that league. The money is coming from Disney. It's not coming from anyone else. And you are the largest voice, maybe with the exception of Chris Fowler and Paul Feinbaum, but I think Kirk Herbstreit himself is the largest voice, the biggest voice. And, I like him. I think we have reason to be critical of everyone in media at times. But, Kirk Herbstreit, this is a moment where there's got to be some looking in the mirror at Disney. They are responsible for this. So is the SEC. That's what's happened here. This is about money. It's been about money for a long time. That needs to be stated very unequivocally. That's what's going on, period. Is that the SEC is more powerful, period, and the Big 12 is not. Period, end of statement. And so what will happen with the Big 10, Pac-12, etc.? Here's what he goes on to say. This is not me just coming on here to run Kirk Herbstreit down. He has been an advocate for our sport. He has been, in many ways, an advocate for our industry. Frankly, I don't know if Dog Post would exist without the widespread prevalence of college football through television over the last 30 years. It might not, I don't know. Here's what he goes on to say, that is the Pac-12 going to be a bunch more teams? I think he's certainly getting onto something there. Is the Big Ten going to try to gather other teams? Is the ACC going to try to gather some teams? Are we going to go down that path? Are we going to possibly see four conferences break off and form their own world and create their own 12-team playoff and their own legislative body? That's going to be the new power of the world of college athletics and college football. Is that where we're going? It kind of feels like this is the beginning of the first few dominoes to fall. Yes, that's where we're going. And I mean, look, that guy, he's not a dummy. He knows exactly what's going on. That's where we're headed. We're headed to where the SEC and its big conference brethren are either going to be controlling their own. They're either going to be autonomous. They're going to be inside the NCAA and being autonomous, or they're going to be gone and they're going to take college athletics with them. That will really hurt places like where I went and played, Coker College. It will really hurt Presbyterian, Georgia State, places like that, Georgia Southern. It will really hurt schools that are not in the Power 5 or what will soon be the Power 4. But that is where we're headed because of the NCAA's overreaction in some cases and underreaction in others. And really this goes back to 1984 and Georgia, Oklahoma, and Penn State suing and winning in the Supreme Court. That is where we're going. The problem for everyone else is there's no more dominoes to play with. The Big Ten, ACC, and Pac-12 have all been outmaneuvered by Greg Sankey. It's that simple. And they are left with very few options, and whatever options they are going to be determined in a major way by what Sankey and the SEC decide to do. There's a lot of discussion right now about, well, now we don't want a 12-team playoff. Greg Sankey's, comment to that is, that's fine, we'll stay with 4. They don't care. They don't care. This isn't about money for the SEC. Each school's gonna make over $80 million over the next 15 years. They don't need more money from the college football playoff. They're doing fine. The other schools, they do if they're gonna catch up. Number 2, if you don't go to a 12-team playoff right away with Disney, that means that it goes to the market. Everybody can make a bid on it. CBS, Fox, Amazon, whoever. ABC would be Disney as well. NBC, would they want to get into the ball game? We don't know. But instead of Disney controlling that contract and negotiating it early like they did with the SEC not that long ago, it wasn't. It was early, a little bit early, before CBS. CBS did not keep the rights. The SEC essentially opened it up and went from $56 million per school to $56 million per year to a $300 million a year contract. That is a massive explosion in value. So, this is about the business of sport. This is about money in sports. If the money didn't matter and it was cool, and this was sort of a socialist or communist situation, you could just go into the game and not pay, then they wouldn't charge for the tickets. They wouldn't go out and get new shiny facilities. They wouldn't have television contracts. This is straight up pure, in many ways, unregulated capitalism. These schools are breaking away from their regulator, the NCAA. They're not having it anymore. And in many ways, they didn't have it to begin with. So unlike in traditional politics, there's no, governmental entity that's over the top of these schools in a giant way. Yes, at the state level, but there's no way that the state of Louisiana would tell LSU not to go get the best deal for LSU. Of course not. Texas just did the same thing. So that's where we're at. This is the business of sport. And, someone like Kirk, I think, knows that really well. He has to say particular things because of the position that he's in. There's a sort of all shucks factor, generally speaking, that you get from people sometimes. I don't get that Paul Feinbaum's that way. Typically, Chris Fowler is not that way. And to some degree, David Pollock's that way. But none of them are Kirk Herbstreit. There's a difference. There's a particular amount of respect that he carries that other folks don't. He is the voice of college football in America. And he's trying to say it in the most polite way, that this is coming, that I'm telling you, it's already here. We're going to have a 12-team playoff. It's either going to happen in a couple of years or it's going to happen in 2026. We're going to have a consolidation of the conferences. It's either going to happen next year or it's going to happen before 2025. This is all happening. And if these schools have the most to lose. Clemson, Florida, and maybe in order, Clemson, Florida State, Oklahoma State, Texas Christian, those 4, and I get if you want to throw Miami in there, and in North Carolina, those schools had better be ready to move. And I don't know what that movement would be to. Is the Big Ten? I think for the Big Ten, they're trying to figure out if the SEC can help them, or if the SEC is a foe, or if they're just frenemies. The fact of the matter is that the Big Ten doesn't benefit any more from the NCAA, than the SEC does. and we're just in a different world. But, Kirk's last statement here, clearly the decision makers, let me make sure I read the whole thing. I've always tried to be the guy that's like, no, we're going to hold on to our traditions. People care about those traditions. They care about the rivalries. Clearly the decision makers don't. And now we're at an arms race, and it's all about the money. First of all, it's always been about the money. Second, we've been in an arms race since the 1980s. And finally, I'm not sure I agree about the rivalries part. No rivalry goes away because Texas and Oklahoma come into the SEC, unless you consider Texas Christian a rivalry. You're going to get back Texas A&M. Texas-Oklahoma still exists. Oklahoma State can play just like Tech and Georgia play every single year. This does not destroy rivalries. Rivalries like Auburn and Florida went away a while ago. Georgia played Mississippi forever. It's not really a rivalry, but okay. So that's where we're at. It's a new world, and it's disturbing for a lot of people. But this world is here, and you'd better be ready to compete. If you're not ready to ball out, you need to pull the ejection seat and get out of here right now. Let's go to the website. You're going to miss out on Sunday's stuff. Go to dogpost.com right now.